Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of vBrownBag. Tonight, we are going to be continuing with our Getting Into the Technical Career series, and I'm very pleased to introduce you tonight Hiroko Nishimura, who is going to be talking about her transition from special education teacher to AWS hero. But before we get into it, let's do a couple of show notes. Get in on the conversation. If you at vBrownBag on Twitter, I will be paying attention, watching the tweeters and all the Twitter's things happening. And if you have a question for her, I will field that. If you are in the live studio audience tonight, please submit questions via the Q&A panel, and I will also moderate those as well. If you are in the Latin America or EMEA areas, then we also have our corresponding channels. Please feel free to tune into those evenings as well. And yeah, if you want to follow her, and I highly encourage that you do, she's got some great content on Twitter. You can follow her at Hiroko Nishimura. And I, of course, am Chris. You can follow me at Mistwire for all of the new updates and speakers that we have on vBrownBag. So with that, Hiroko, are you ready?
Yep.
All right. You have the power.
Sweet. Wait, where's my power? There's my power.
Where'd it go?
All right, here we go. Thanks for having me on today. So my journey in tech has been an accident mostly. And so I am a special education teacher turned IT professional. And last fall, I had the privilege of becoming an AWS hero. So today I wanted to talk about the journey that took me from there to here in about 5 years. Whoops. There you go. That's just me. And so who am I? I'm an AWS community hero and also the founder of AWSnewbies.com and technical instructor at LinkedIn Learning and Egghead. And I'm a special education teacher turned help desk engineer turned sysadmin turned technical writer and instructor. All in a span of about 6 years. And today, I wanted to talk about creating your unique career by integrating your diverse backgrounds and experiences. And I think this is a very important topic because for the first couple of years of my career in tech, as a tech transplant, coming in from a completely unrelated background, I was trying very, very hard to mold myself into what I perceived was the engineer, someone that does IT and has 10 years of experience and loves code and breathes it and eats it for dinner. And I found myself kind of killing parts of my background and who I am so that I can fit into this mold. And here's this kind of quick summary of what I did. I graduated my master's in special education in 2014, began my career as a junior IT help desk engineer in 2015, created AWSnewbies.com in 2018 so that I can pass the AWS Certified Practitioner exam, and then created Introduction to AWS for Non-Engineers with LinkedIn Learning in 2019. And creating AWSnewbies.com and my courses for LinkedIn Learning kind of really escalated this whole, hey, there's a career for me that is a match for me as opposed to a generic engineer persona. So in 2019, I left corporate to become a freelance technical writer. And last fall into 2020, I became an AWS community hero. So one of the things that I was talking about earlier is the fact that I was trying to throw away parts of myself to fit this non-existent mold of an engineer. But it turned out that what set me apart and what led me to a career that I love was finding the unique intersection between my backgrounds and experiences and interests. And it helped to carve this very specific niche for myself. And in my experience, my niche is teaching AWS or cloud computing to people with non-technical backgrounds or people who have non-traditional technical backgrounds. And I am able to do this a lot thanks to the fact that I am trained as a special education teacher. And in special education, the whole curriculum is created so that these students who learn differently from other students are able to access the same content. You just modify and change the way that you teach, but you want to teach the same thing. And with AWSnewbies.com and Introduction to AWS for Non-Engineers, without really realizing it, I was doing that for people with non-traditional technical backgrounds. And I was thinking back a little while ago on how I managed to accidentally create this unique dream career for myself by bringing together every part of my background and experiences. And when I was younger, I wanted to become a writer. And I wanted to write poetry, stories, stuff like that. Unfortunately, I had brain surgery when I was 22, and my ability to come up with stories kind of disappeared. But instead, I'm a technical writer writing technical content and knowledge bases. And in high school through college, I wanted to become a teacher. I wanted to become a special education teacher. So I put 6 years of my life into getting a bachelor's and master's in special education. I was like, I'm going to become a teacher, I'm going to change some children's lives. And then I graduated. I was like, this may not be for me, mostly because of the brain surgery and the fact that special education is such a labor-intensive and exhausting career that I felt like my body probably wasn't up to it anymore. So I was like, okay, what do I do? What am I supposed to do now? I just spent 6 years getting a master's degree for this one specific thing. And now I'm not going to be that one specific thing. And then I pivoted 180 degrees and I was like, okay, what? I'm going to become that engineer, that IT engineer, wearing hoodies every day to work and eating chips and drinking 10 cups of coffee. Like, I can do this. And I thought I'll be spending the rest of my life and career as an engineer. Instead, I'm using my ability to self-teach myself tech to help create resources and teach others. So in a way, every part of my past that I thought was no longer relevant to my life is extremely relevant to creating this specific niche where I am learning tech and then I'm teaching tech, but in a way that's different from the conventional way of teaching and introducing technical concepts to people. So yeah, as I said, now I'm a technical writer and instructor deconstructing technical concepts for people with non-traditional technical backgrounds, piecing together all these different parts of myself. And I'm switching gears now to how I did this, which is a question a lot of people ask, especially when they want to become technical instructors or technical writers. And I kind of did it as an accident, but what I was doing was a concept called learning in public. And AWSnewbies.com was a study blog for myself for the practitioner exam, which turned out to be learning in public. I was writing documentations and notes and sharing it with everyone. And once I realized that's what I was doing and that's what's working, I began to aggressively learn in public almost everything that I'm learning. And honestly, half of it is so that I have notes for myself because I forget everything so easily. So the excuse is that I'm writing it as a public service, but in reality, it's mostly that, I just don't remember and I know I won't remember. So I read my own blog posts. It's like, oh, black hole setup. How do I do this? Perfect documentation because I wrote it. So what happened once I began to aggressively learn in public? I was able to teach Introduction to AWS for Non-Engineers courses on LinkedIn Learning. I was able to do a lot of technical writing for different startups and companies talking about AWS, tech, and creating technical documentations. I teach coding classes and courses on Egghead. And I was able to attend AWS reInvent 2019 as a scholarship recipient. And just a couple months ago, I became an AWS hero, which is a huge honor and also meant a lot to me as someone who's not this 10 times engineer person. A lot of my AWS heroes peers, especially the ones that I've met, they are like industry top experts doing amazing things that I only understand 0.5% of, but don't tell them that. And for me to be able to grace the same pages as these people, even with my kind of definitely not 10 times engineer skills on AWS, and to be accepted for the merits of community building and the impact that I'm bringing to the community through my courses has been extremely rewarding. And one thing that I really focus on is that if it's a pain point for me, when I'm trying to learn something or when I'm trying to explain something to someone, then it's a learning opportunity for a lot of people and yourself to kind of create documentation or resources. And this helps you learn in public. The best way to learn and the best way to make sure that you've learned something is to explain it in your own words. And it creates a portfolio that no one can take away from you of your work and your abilities. So I think that's it. But basically learn in public, and even if it's been written, it doesn't matter, because how many tutorials do you go through before you find that one tutorial that actually works? And your tutorial can be that one tutorial that works. And people are watching, people are reading. And I am able to work freelance because people are seeing my work online, which is pretty amazing. So yeah. Let me stop sharing. My magic skill is I'm going
Awesome.
to give you back your.
Well, okay. This is generating a bit of traffic. So I wanted to start taking some of the questions and some of the comments. People are, it's definitely resonating with folks that if you are having a problem yourself, then it's guaranteed that there's 1,000 other people out there that are having the same problem. So well, let's take a step back and talk about your journey a little bit. Mm-hmm. You went from zero, from a traditional non-technical background to AWS hero in 6 years. Is that an accurate statement?
So I graduated college in 2014, got my job in 2015, and I became an AWS hero in 2020. Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. So you got that first job, and then you decided to start learning AWS. And
I started learning AWS at my third job. I was only at jobs for about a year or so each. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Since I started from zero with every job, I ended up having to move fairly quickly to the next position because a lot of them were not conducive to me growing beyond that frame, the very narrow frame.
Right, but the parameters of the job, you outstripped them quickly, so you had to move on. Right.
Yeah. So my third job was at a tech startup, and that's where I began exploring cloud computing and SaaS products. Before that, everything was fairly legacy and old school and on-premises. So that's when I first encountered cloud computing and AWS, was at my third job.
So at the third job, you then said, okay, I want to start learning about AWS. So you started a website to basically take notes for yourself, or what was the process for AWS newbies? Because it's a fantastic site. It's great, and the fact that you captured your brain space as you were learning it as a non-technical person is like magic. Because after you've been in tech for a long time, so people that have been coding for a really long time struggle teaching beginners because they're like, what do you mean you don't know what a variable is? It's a spot where you hold your float. What's a float? Wait a minute, what? And so it's amazing that you captured that in situ as you were going through it. So that's super thoughtful on your part.
So it's actually, no, that's I call myself a professional beginner because small startups and companies hire me to create documentation as their target audience, who's the beginner.
Awesome.
because the ability to have that beginner's mind is so limited in time. And I have to be able to explain technical concepts with the questions that I had, which I think it's very interesting that now I make money by saying I don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm like, yeah, I don't know what this is, but soon your audience will know what it is as I figure it out.
That's awesome. As a quick aside, one of the dirty secrets of consulting is we don't know what we're talking about, but I didn't say that out loud. Don't tell anybody I said that. Is this being recorded? Oh no. Okay, so you started the website, you started learning, and then that snowballed. How did all of the interest? I mean, walk me through the journey, because this is fascinating.
Yeah, it was kind of a phew kind of thing. So I learned about AWS, what Amazon Web Services is, I think in the spring of 2018. So I knew it existed. I knew the acronym AWS, but the only thing I knew was, it must be Amazon because it has Amazon in its name.
Right.
Don't really know what it means or what it does. I do know our company uses it, and apparently it's a big thing because everyone talks about it, but I didn't know inherently what it was or what cloud computing was. And so one day I was talking to one of my friends, and he was like, oh yeah, I got this thing called the AWS Solutions Architect Associate Certification Exam thingamabob, and now I have an amazing job with an amazing salary, and it's great. And I have no experience, but that's okay. They love these certs. And I was like, that sounds like an amazing cert.
I'm sold. I'm in.
I'm sold. A lot of monies for a test. Like, I'm sold. What is this thing? And so I began trying to figure out what AWS is. And I also started trying to study for the Solutions Architect Associate exam. But my manager at the time said, you know what, start with the Cloud Practitioner exam. It just came out a little while ago.
Right.
And let's not set yourself up for failure. And I was like, y'all so rude. But okay, whatever. If you're going to give me cookie points for passing this so-called, not for IT people certification exam, like, I'll take those cookie points.
Rude.
Turns out that is not as easy as you think it would be.
Right.
And so I was watching courses, I was reading documentations, I was reading blogs, and I just could not understand anything. And it got to be where I signed up for the exam, and it was, I think, 2 weeks before my exam, and I had gone through a lot of courses and stuff, but I still had no idea what anything was, much less the core services. And it really got hammered home to me when I had a horrible interview with a company where they had 3 rounds of interviews on the same day, and it was literally dudes rattling off AWS service acronyms at me, asking me what they do.
What does the RDS do with the EC2 and the SSM around the? Actually, real quick, somebody's been asking several times. What is the name of your website? What is the website URLs? So let's give that a plug real fast.
Yeah. So awsnewbies.com is the main website. Intro to AWS.com has links to my courses. Those two. That
AWS
will,
Newbies and Intro to AWS.com.
Yeah, Intro to AWS.com will lead you to all the Intro AWS courses.
Awesome. Okay, sorry, please continue. I just wanted to get that out because people were asking, what site is this you guys are talking about?
Yeah. So that AWSnewbies.com site had to be created because I had 2 weeks till my certification exam, and I had absolutely no idea what was going on. And so I had to sit back and ask myself, how do I learn best? Because whatever I'm doing is clearly not working out. And I was like, okay, well, I'm a teacher by training, and I learn best by regurgitating things in my own words after I try to learn them. That's how it kind of sticks to my head. So let me kind of create a blog, create a website to help me get all the information out there, and then I can just study that. But if I don't chew the content first and then spit it out, I'm never going to get anywhere with this because I have 2 weeks left and I don't know anything. And it took me a couple years to realize why AWSnewbies.com worked so well and why I was having such difficulty. It was because I think inherently the exam, first of all, was too new. And second of all, people didn't really comprehend that you can't just throw solutions architect associate resources with the content pulled out, because the content, a lot of it overlaps. But the solutions architect associate exam is meant for people who are in IT, who have infrastructure background, whereas the cloud practitioner exam was marketed for people who don't have IT experience. They're marketed for people in legal, accounting, graphic designers, like people who have to touch and understand, and finances, understand how AWS is built, what it is, and what the core services are, but they aren't expected to have infrastructure background. And so the audience base were inherently different, but the resources that people were sending out for this exam were meant for people who were taking solutions architect associate exam, which meant we don't understand it because we don't understand the jargon. And what AWSnewbies.com did was I had to understand it. So I had to break down every single concept in ways that I can understand it. And I spent, I think, 9 days making the website and all the content. And I spent the last couple of days studying it and took the certification exam, and I passed it. So I was like, all right, great. And, AWS has this cool thing called the AWS free tier. So I'll leave it up until this thing expires. And, if it helps one or two other people learn a little bit about AWS in the process, I'll be happy, and I'll just take it down next year. Within a couple months, it was getting 10,000 hits a month from Google. And that's when I was like, this might be a niche and a need that wasn't being addressed before. But if I couldn't find it and I had to make it, that means that wasn't being addressed before. And after a few weeks, maybe a month or two after I created AWSnewbies.com, I got an email from content manager at LinkedIn Learning asking if I'd be interested in creating introduction to AWS courses for people from non-traditional technical backgrounds, like people like me who are just trying to take the certification exam or learn about AWS, but they don't necessarily have the infrastructure background that allows us to access a lot of the other resources that are out and about. And I think they were one of the first people to realize that this is a huge need that's not being filled yet.
Right.
I think since then, there's been an explosion of resources for people who just need to know what AWS is, what the core services are, but they don't need to know how to build anything. They don't need to know, 0.9999999%, or no, wait, 99.9999999%, all those stuff. They just need to know what they are so they can speak the same language as their engineers.
Right.
And I got the email. I was like, what? You do realize I made this website because I have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, right? And the content manager actually said to me, that's why we want you, because I'm in this unique intersection between being a beginner and learning this, but also I'm able to deconstruct this in a way that people can understand. And they have a lot of instructors who are amazing veterans of the industry for decades, and they've been doing this for decades, so they know their stuff. They're great at making intermediate and advanced level courses, but they are not as able to create beginner level courses because, as you said earlier, people who have been in it for too long just don't know what there is to not know. It's just basics, right? It's simple. It's basics. What do you mean you don't know what a VPC is? Well, it's like, this. And and when she said that to me, it just kind of clicked a little bit in my head. I was like, oh wow, there's a place for me as a beginner to make an impact. And I'm uniquely able to make an impact because I'm a beginner and because I am curious and I'm trying to figure this out as I go too. And I've gone through, made the courses, and then last winter, right before coronavirus started, I re-recorded every single course and we re-released it. And I think already we've there's been at least 40,000 students take the re-release courses.
Awesome.
And I get messages almost every day on LinkedIn from students going like, thank you, I've been able to pass the certification exam. I've been able to learn these things. And one thing that really struck me was one of the students said to me, you made me realize that if I can't understand something, it's not that I'm too dumb or I can't understand it, it's too technical for me. It's just that I haven't found the correct medium. So I just need to continue looking until I find that person or that resource that can get me to understand. And as an instructor, that's like the best thing anyone can say to you. Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm done,
That's awesome.
My work is done. So after a couple months after the first courses were released, I quit my job and started doing technical writing full-time freelance. And last fall, I became an AWS hero after all the huzzas. It's been like a bullet train the past couple of years.
I'll bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So interesting comment that somebody in the audience made. I think your inclusion as an AWS hero is as fitting, or perhaps even more so, than the quote unquote experts. It's easy to be good, but hard to do good. I've run into that a little bit too. So up here in the Boston area, we have Ben Kehoe, who is like, the iRobot data scientist, super smart guy. And he and I he's come to my little AWS Portsmouth user group a couple of times to talk. And we were talking about how the hero thing and all that stuff. And I said that I'm just a little community hero. Ben's the serverless hero. And he actually got a little upset with me because he was like, dude, doing the technical thing is good, but without all the community heroes, like gathering everybody together to put in front of us, which is something we absolutely cannot do, we wouldn't be here at all. So Thomas Weldon, who just made that comment, I think is absolutely correct. And the feedback and the good feelings that you're getting from your students is that's just magic. That's got to be the best feeling.
Yeah, it's kind of surreal that something that I thought was a part of myself that's done, like it was a useless 6 years going to college and getting a master's degree, and it turns out that's what's driving this whole thing and allows me to do what I do. And the fact that I no longer have to hide different parts of myself or my background in order to do work that helps people has been amazing.
Awesome. Another comment, a friend of mine recommended the session for me. I'm a special education teacher as well. Jack of all trades, I've been trying for years to rebrand myself, but people see the resume and put limits on what I've done and can do. I'm glad to see someone make a successful transition.
Yeah. No, I honestly, I guess I just trumpeting our horns as a special education teacher, but I think special education teachers are one of those people who are most adept at doing anything. The stress level, the ability to multitask, the ability to be innovative, the ability to come up with all these out of box.
Think on your feet, multitask.
Yeah, it's and you have kids running around, right? I think a lot of parents the past year can appreciate this whole concept of kids running around as you're trying to work all day. But I think going from special education to almost anything, it's a great transition, and people will be very blessed to have you.
One of my sisters is in special education as well, and her job is significantly harder than anything that I've seen. So hats off to all the special ed teachers out there. Okay, so you've parlayed yourself into a professional beginner. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I should just put that on my business card.
Well, I mean, there is the concept of beginner's mind, always going back to, looking at things with fresh eyes and always having that that trying to keep that new perspective, even on things that, and I do that with architecture too. When you're looking at a problem, how to reset your brain, take a step away from it and really rethink it from the perspective of somebody that's not seen it before. And it's definitely a gift that if you've bottled that, then you've got magic sauce right there.
Yeah.
We do have an interesting and diverse crowd this evening. We've got a epidemiologist. We've got a special ed teacher. We've got the IT folks. It's definitely a mixed bag tonight.
Yeah. No,
Cool.
I think IT is one of those things where anyone can make a transition into it, and whatever great background you bring into it is going to make it better. The experiences and the viewpoints, like obviously we've seen what bad things tech can do when it's in a insulated ecosystem. So I think every one of us coming in from different backgrounds can only do good things.
Absolutely, 100%. If you're only designing it with a certain demographic in mind, you're definitely short selling yourself. Cool. Okay. Well, Hiroko, thank you so much for coming on tonight. This was Hiroko Nishimura. If you want to learn more about her, you can find her on awsnewbies.com, or you can check her out on intro to aws.com. Folks are saying thank you very much. Graham, one of our stalwarts, is saying hello and thank you. And cool. Any last words?
Keep safe, keep warm, and I hope you keep electricity. It's supposed to snow again.
Man. All right, folks. Everybody have a wonderful night, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you.